Hello and welcome to Everyday Writers. I'm one of your hosts, Crystal McQueen.
I'm one of your other hosts, Jordan S. Keller, and on today's bonus episode, Krista and I are going to be sharing some of our favorite books that we love reading this festive time of year.
So, not many people realize this, but publishers try to release books in seasons. So, your book, if it has a certain aspect, a certain season to it, such as it's in the Christmas time or it's really cold, they're going to try and release it around that winter time frame, which is going to be your January, February, March time frame. And then if you have something that's like a lot more seasonal, like it's at the beach, it's a vacation, they're really going to try and release that in the summer. And so, Jordan, your book was released, I believe the first one was released in August. So, can you kind of talk about like what the decision was behind why it was released at that time?
Yeah, so the book in question, Wildfire, right over here, it was released in August because the book is set in the summertime in a city, so it made sense to release it in the summertime of our regular world. And it's also a super hot, fiery superhero romance, so they wanted to release it in the summertime. So it could be a beach read and good for traveling and marketing to people going to school and having something they could pick up on their way to campus. Um,
Yeah.
and so Oh, yeah. And so that's why that book. But to your point about things being released into the seasons, we have another author friend, Mark E. Scott, whose book is set in the dead of winter. It covers 8 hours in the span of a blizzard. And so it was released in February-ish, and then it's right here, Drunk Log. And so it feels like such a cold book because it was released in the middle of winter. It's set in the middle of winter. So yeah, so the seasons that books release and the books that we read in those seasons, they really hold us captive in those environments.
For
Um,
sure.
yeah, and so I can't wait to know some of your most favorite winter holiday reads. What do you
Yeah.
have?
So, I don't want to read about the winter when it's not winter because I don't like the cold. But one of my favorite books is by Claire Keegan, and it's called Small Things Like These. And so this is a really short novel set at Christmas time. And it's kind of talking about this family who's so wrapped up in all of the things that they need to do in order to get ready for Christmas. But it really goes into the Irish laundries, which is actually where women were placed when they got in trouble, so if they got pregnant out of wedlock or if they, were any kind of considered vagrant, they would actually be put in these convents, which are called laundries, and they were put into servitude and they couldn't get out. Their children were taken from them. So it's actually a very deep story that's only like 100 pages long. But it's a huge contrast to this family that's, getting into all of the ridiculous things about Christmas, the lights, the party, the food, and like being very, very stressed at this time of year. And really contrasting that to people that were freezing in these laundries because they just weren't allowed to go anywhere else. So this is one of my emotional deep reads. How about you? Show me your first one.
In the exact opposite vein, it's another shorty one, but it's the Santa Mouse. So it's not deep, it's not dreary, it's very cutesy. Me and my mom would read this book every Christmas Eve, when like setting up the cookies for Santa Claus, and it just always puts me right into the spirit of Christmas. And I think it really solidified my love for mice. So
I
this is
love
my
that.
first pick, Santa Mouse.
Well, also going into the absolute opposite direction, it's called a Season of Second Chances by Jenny Bayless. So this is definitely a comfort read. It's very sweet about this woman. I really like women that take power and control. And so this woman is fed up with her husband cheating on her. She leaves him for the like final time, and then she buys this little hut on the seashore in the middle of winter and thinks that she's going to make it work. And so she ends up finding love in this little quaint town on the lakeside. And it's just a really fun read.
It's so for all of our listeners, we did not plan these picks. I'm so glad you have a Ginny Bayless because I also have Ginny Bayless. A friend is borrowing it, but here's the cover, the 12 Dates of Christmas. It's a couple years old, but it is so cute. Our main character, she is like on an Advent blind date, and so there's 12 dates leading up to Christmas, and you know the guy you want her to end up with, but it doesn't look like it's possible. But of course, Christmas magic ensues. It is so cute. She's been becoming one of my favorite authors. I want to pick up more of her books, so I'll
Oh,
definitely be
love
picking up
that.
yours.
Oh,
Yeah.
if you'd like it, I will bring it
Oh,
to my
yeah, I can just
studio.
borrow yours.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
great.
I mean, you could buy it too, but I could just like
Yeah.
lend it to you.
All right, what's number three?
Okay, so number three, I like the ones that kind of make me feel a whole lot of emotions. And it's my grandmother asked me to tell you she's sorry. And so this is set at Christmas time, and this little girl is, she gets all these letters from her grandmother who just passed, and that was who she was closest to. And she basically has to right all of these wrongs that her grandmother did when she passed. And she's got this dog that she's not allowed to have in her apartment complex, but she keeps hiding in places. And so I will warn you that this book by Frederick Bachman is a tearjerker. I probably cried for 15 minutes at the end of it, but
Oh.
it's so, so good. And this is definitely set at Christmas time. And it's not necessarily a feel good book, but it is definitely a lots of feels book.
Do all the letters, are they all apologizing or are some letters?
Yeah,
Yeah,
every single
okay.
one is like she did this awful thing, and then but everything had like this meaning to it. Like I'm
Hmm.
sorry that I didn't do this for you, but when you dig deeper into it, it was because this person was like running from a spouse, and so she couldn't be at this other thing because she was protecting this person, like kind of witness protection program. And so she apologizes to this person who was holding a grudge against her. She was like, "But if you really knew the story, you'd
Oh.
understand." And so everything builds onto each other in that book. And,
Mhm.
at the very end, when it all comes together and you're like, even the people you hated, you're like, well, I don't hate you that much anymore.
Oh. Oh, it's real
What's your next
touching.
one?
So this is my first Christmas read of the year. It's Pop Fizz Clink by uh Genevieve Mueller. It
Oh my gosh, I
is
keep seeing that on Instagram.
Yeah, it's well worth it. All the Instagram posts, it's the cutest thing. It's set in Cincinnati. Our main character it just turns 30 and she's sort of having not a midlife crisis per se, but she feels like she's not where she should be in life. Like she doesn't have the dream job, she's not married, she doesn't have the kid, and it's her discovering that life happens in different instances for different people, and it's just really cute. It's got the most adorable little wiener dog in it. And it's so neat to see all of the Cincinnati locations she references, and one of them is the Gaslight Bar and Grill where our writing group
Oh,
used to meet.
yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
so
Well,
very
tell you
cute.
what, I'll trade you. You let me borrow that one and I'll let
Mhm.
you borrow this one.
Deal, perfect.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, so my last book that I'm going to recommend, and it's not really a recommendation for anybody because this is kind of a personal choice, but Christmas time is all about like comfort and feeling like, just this kind of hug from a book. And so one of my favorite books is Pride and Prejudice. And even though it has nothing to do with Christmas, it's something that I try to read at least once a year because it is one of my favorites. Jane Austen, most people don't realize this, but Jane Austen was definitely a pioneer of her time. This was the first book that was actually published by a female author that had females talking about things other than men. So in this book, they're talking about what do they do after inheritance, like what do they want to be, how do they want to grow. And so they're talking about real female problems, which was a huge deal in the time. If it didn't include religion, like Jane Eyre or The Little Women, this book didn't focus on any of that. It focused on girls that didn't want to get married to somebody that they didn't like. And what were they going to do if their father passed away because they couldn't inherit the property? So I really love Jane Austen because she was definitely a pioneer of her time. It's definitely a romance novel,
Mhm.
um, but it's got that that break through the ceiling, and she really did pioneer that. So,
Mhm.
all right, what's your last one?
So again, also not a Christmas novel, but a comfort novel. It's Wolf Brother, The Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. And
I know that book.
you do?
Yes.
I'm missing the final three of the series, so if you ever find them in a thrift store.
Okay.
Um, so the before our Christmas break in middle school, the Scholastic bookstore came or book fair came, and this is one of the books they had, and I picked it up and I read it all Christmas break, and it is so beat up and bruised from how often I read it outside. But this is one of those comfort books for me. Every time it gets a little snowy out, I reread it because it opens up in this snowy forest with this monster bear, and um, I'm
Yeah.
so happy you know this book. Most people
I
don't.
haven't read it in forever. That's
Oh.
amazing that you brought that one up.
It's beaten, it's all bruised and broken, but you can borrow. But yeah, so these are some of our favorite novels, ones that we've read countless times. With the new year coming up, what's first on your to be read list?
Okay, so when I was researching for this episode, we decided that we were going to go through different books, and I was actually looking at like what are the top 10 books that, most people read at Christmas time, and I stumbled across A Christmas Hygge, which anybody that knows Hygge, it's actually Hygge. It's the Danish version of happiness or homeness, and so there's a lot of history behind Hygge for me.
Mhm.
When I had first gotten a book about Hygge at work, I had actually just met you guys. I had
Yeah.
met these people, random people at a bar, and I had read this book about, COVID was going on, everybody was isolated. We hadn't had any real human connection, and I decided I wanted to have a hygge party. So I invited these random strangers that I had met like 3 or 4 times
Mhm.
over to my house, and we had, you know, soup and wine. I bought everybody a little candle. We played writing
Mhm.
games. And now 3 years later, no, it's
Yeah.
more than 3 years later. Uh, 4 years
Yeah, it
later?
was, it must have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
still super close friends. And so there's a lot of warm space in my heart. And so I ordered it immediately. It's actually just arrived. I haven't read it yet, but I'm super excited to read A Christmas Hygge. How about you?
Do we get to have like a belated Christmas hygge at your house after
Oh,
you read the book?
absolutely. You,
Yes.
you guys could always come over to my house.
Sweet. I am most looking forward to book three of The Fourth Ring. It's going to be 5 books, so Onyx Storm, it's coming out in January.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I got to finish book two. I'm scared, but so I figured if I start it middle of December, I'll have it finished right before book three comes out, and I won't have to wait because book one kind of ended in a cliffhanger.
Oh,
But I cannot wait.
oh,
Ooh,
that's so exciting.
I go. So
Well,
late.
this is all we had for this bonus episode. This is also our first video episode
Yeah. So
that
it's
we're
nice
going to
to
be
see you
posting out
all.
there. Say it again.
It's nice to see you all.
Oh, it's nice to see you guys. We hope that maybe this creates a little bit more interaction to show you just how genuinely passionate we are to share, our writing experiences with you, but also to have you guys share your writing experiences with us.
Yeah,
So
so let us know your favorite holiday read in the comments below, and we'll see you after the New Year's. Happy, happy holidays.
happy holidays.